Welcome to the Rahma Podcast.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the Rahma Podcast. This is your host, Ali Kaiser. Today our guest is Molana Umar Farooq. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khair, Molana Umar Farooq, for taking out time today. Just a little intro about Molana Umar Farooq. Molana Umar Farooq graduated from Darul Al-Rashid in Canada, and he is also the director of Dawat Irshad. Molana, what is Dawat Irshad?
Idara Dawat Irshad.
Yeah, Idara Dawat Irshad.
Yes, it began, alhamdulillah, in 1990 by Hazrat Molana Rafiq Saab, and it is a website for about Qadiyanism, the truth about Qadiyanism, and how Muslims could know about Qadiyanism. And it has a center in Alexandria, and we do awareness wherever there's needed around North America. And we have a famous website, one of the first on Qadiyanism, irshad.org.
So you guys do debates too, right? So if there's a debate needed, you'll go for a debate?
Yes, if we need to discuss. We don't really call it debate. The debates are not needed anymore because debates, our forefathers have already debated, like the Qadiyanism has already been declared kafir. So there's really is a need of discussion. So if usually there's a Qadiyani who needs an understanding, we assist them with that. If they want to talk, they want to understand, we give them the right approach so that they can understand Qadiyanism and they can understand Islam. And hopefully Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants them hidayah.
Okay, anyways, our topic is about Qadiyanism, since you are, mashallah, professional in this. So anyways, before we even get to Qadiyanism, what is Qadiyanism? First, we need to understand what is our beliefs, what are our aqaid, and what is the importance of aqaid.
Aqaid in Islam are very, very important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wherever He says in the Quran, amanu wa amilu salihat. Wherever He says good deeds, He always has amanu, everywhere. So along with we know as Muslims that along with doing good deeds, there has to be faith there. So that's where aqaid comes. Aqaid the singular is aqidah. It comes from the root word aqada, which means to tie a knot. So these are things that Muslims, these are the creed of the Muslims. One of the things interesting when you look at like Qadiyanism or any other groups, is that they don't even have a concept of aqaid. In my own personal discussion with some Qadiyanis, when I told them aqidah, they were lost at that word. They didn't know what aqaid, they couldn't relate to what creed meant. So we have aqaid, so we know what our beliefs are, mainstream beliefs, and from early on, and they've been the same since 1400 years.
I see.
And one more, two more points on this. In actions, as Muslims, we try our best, and then we hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah accepts our actions in this world. But whereas beliefs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects that our beliefs are 100. That you have to have all your beliefs right. So for example, there's 100 beliefs in Islam, and if there's one belief that you don't have but you have 99, it still doesn't make you a Muslim. You have to have all the beliefs. Whereas actions, you have to try your best, and eventually inshallah a Muslim will go to Jannah based on the fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one more is, what is the definition of kufr? One definition of kufr is if you deny any aspect of the deen. For example, like if there will be a woman and she would deny hijab. So let's say she says, I believe in all of Islam, but when it comes to hijab, and I have an issue with hijab. So we'll say, no, you have to believe in all the tenets of Islam. So the beliefs and the practices that are explicitly stated in the Quran and Sunnah, they have to be conformed to, and denial of one of them will put you outside the faith. So beliefs are very, very important. Muslims must understand them. And to understand them, it doesn't take long. Like for example, Islamic law, to do a study of Islamic law, it could take years. But to do a study of beliefs, you could study a classical book like Aqidah Tahawiyah over a weekend, and a Muslim could become firm in it. So as Muslims, we have to be strong in our beliefs. We have to know what they are, and it doesn't take too long time to learn, and then that's it's very, very important. So
basically, you're saying that if there's a rule in Islam, and if you don't obey it, like for example, a woman doesn't do a hijab, right? That's a sin. But if she denies it, then she's out of the fold of Islam? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So when a person denies something, then that person's out of the fold of Islam.
Right.
Okay, got it. Now let's get straight into our topic. Now, we'll start off from what is Qadiyanism, right? Deny finality of prophethood.
Finality of prophethood, there are many beliefs. One of them is finality of prophethood. This is considered a foundational belief. So foundational belief means it's one of the most important ones. So they're all important. If you deny any belief, you'll go outside the fold of Islam. And what do we think about a foundational one? Now, what do we mean by a foundational one? Is that it's a belief that there's overwhelming evidences for. Okay, so for example, for Finality of Prophethood, in the Quran we have 100 ayats, and in the Hadith we have 200 hadith. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to tell us something, He wouldn't need to give us so many verses to explain. But since there's overwhelming evidence, that's why it's known as a foundational belief. So any doubt in the foundational belief, it definitely puts you outside the fold of Islam. So now, let's say there's somebody, he denies Finality of Prophethood. So he's outside the fold. Now he might be reading the kalima. He goes, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. He might keep a beard. He prays salat. He has good character. You see all his charity work. He has good manners. But his belief, his Islam is not there. Right? So we have to believe in Finality of Prophethood. Finality of Prophethood, the definition of it is that no new prophet, the way we define it is that after Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, till the day of judgment, no new prophet can be born. Absolutely. Any kind of a prophethood cannot be after the Prophet ﷺ. Now, sometimes, one of the interesting things, when my discussions with Qadiyanis, I've had Qadiyanis, they come up to me, and they would read like this, oh, ma kana walaki Rasulullah khataman nabiyyin.
That's the most common thing.
Yeah. They'll read it. They'll read it in front of you.
Yeah.
Now somebody get tricked. Now, the verses they're quoting, but the definition is different. See, they're not adhering to this definition. So the definition has to be the proper mainstream Muslim definition. That's what they're not adhering to. Just because you're reading that verse, khataman nabiyyin, doesn't mean that you believe in the finality of prophethood. Now, another hadith that's important to understand here is one hadith of Prophet ﷺ in Bukhari. He mentioned about a group who was outside the fold of Islam called Khawarij. Okay, Khawarij was a group who was outside the fold of Islam. Now the Khawarij, Prophet ﷺ told us that that their ibadats were very good. Salat was very impressive, their fasting was very impressive, all their other worships were quite impressive, but their faith
was down the drain.
Wasn't there. Right? So in the world, sometimes Muslims who are not educated about their deen, they get tricked by that. They might look at somebody who has very good manners, he's wearing white, he's got a beard, he has a huge turban on his head, so you get impressed, like, wow, even I don't dress that much sunnah as this person is, but if he's denying finality of prophethood, you're looking at a kafir right there.
Yeah. Okay?
So belief, so we shouldn't go by the outward, the inward, the faith comes first, actions come second.
I see.
So this topic that we're discussing, by the way, is a very important one. It's called defining theological boundaries. This is very important for Muslims to do. And one of the things that we Muslims were challenged today in the West is that we have to make this a norm that we always define our theological boundaries. Every Muslim scholar should define, besides teaching the practice, explaining the teachings of Islam, we also should define theological boundaries. Actually, one of the things that's happened in the West is that the atmosphere has become that if you define theological boundaries, it's seen as a crime. But since Islam is a true religion, it needs to define theological boundaries. Like Christianity and some of the other ones, they may define, but not to them it may not be as important.
So what do you mean by theological boundaries?
Meaning, we have to be very clear that this person is a Muslim, these beliefs make you a Muslim, these beliefs, you're not a Muslim. And nobody should become offended by that. Like if we say these people are outside the fold, the mainstream Islam calls a group outside the fold and calls them a kafir. This kafir is not a bad word. It's not a curse word. It just means that you're not fitting in our mainstream definitions of the religion.
I see.
So finality of prophet is very important.
So let's jump into the topic.
Okay.
So our first question is about Qadiyanism. What is Qadiyanism? Right?
Yeah. So Qadiyanism, just like many groups who've denied finality of prophethood, this group also started the history in a quick glance at its history is by a name Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. He lived from 1839 to 1940s.
That's their leader, right?
That's the leader.
Right? That's the one who initiated about the Qadianism and
Qadianism. The whole cult, you can say, of Qadianism is based on this man, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. He initially was a Muslim. He was part of the Ahl Hadith group. But later on, then he starts making claims. So first he made claims, slowly different claims. First Mujaddid, that he's just a reviver. Then later on he makes a claim that he's Mahdi. Later on he claims that he's Jesus. Later on he claims he's Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's a reincarnation. Some place he's also written he's reincarnation. If not, directly than indirectly, explicitly or indirectly. In some place he said he's even divine.
So he can't decide who he is.
He can decide. Now, he makes these claims, and then this Qadiyanism launches into the world. Okay. Now, one of the interesting things here is that I don't think that Mirza Ghulam or the Qadiyanism, one of the things where they failed, I don't think Mirza Ghulam understood Islam. Because Islam, we know that Imam Mahdi is a separate person, and Isa al-Islam is a separate person. So if you are going to be a fake prophet, you should have at least discussed it with the Muslims as to what we believe, and then became that.
I see.
So he claimed all three, and like that. And so in his writings, when he started saying these types of things, so the Muslim world, when they took note of that, and it was very clear to the Muslim that this is clear kufr.
Have they changed the Quranic text? Because some people were saying that they have actually changed the Quranic text.
Yes.
Have they done it?
Yes.
So they even have changed the Quranic text?
Yes. And the way you change it, no one can ever change the text of it. Right? The Arabic text of the Quran, that's impossible, because one and the same. That's one of the miracles of Quran. But they do tahrif, they do distortions. And the way they do distortions is by changing the interpretation. So you'll read a Quran written by a Qadiani group, and they have changed the interpretation. When you read the commentary at the bottom, it's not the commentary of the mainstream Muslims. So,
do you know any books you can share with us? Any books? Tafsir of...
there. You can find it on our website, irshad.org. If you go to irshad.org and you go under misinterpretations of Quran, you'll see all the names written, all the Quran that have been interpreted by Qadiani writers, and they have made those. And they do that in hadith books as well.
Oh, they do it in hadith books
they have their Riyadul Salihin. They've taken mainstream Muslim books and they have done misinterpretations.
Wow. Okay, so now we understood how Qadiyanism initiated and how it started. But how did it gain following, right?
Yeah.
No one can make a claim and people believe him like that.
Right.
How did he start?
This cult mainly, it runs on two things: fraud and deception from the very beginning. Fraud and deception. And
what are these some frauds and deceptions of Qadiyanism?
Right,
what did they do?
From early on, right. So they usurp Muslim identity. So for example, they call themselves, we call themselves, as we're referring in the podcast, as Qadiyanism, but they like to be called Ahmediyasim. They call themselves Ahmadiyya. The name we call them by is Qadiyani. Now, because we say that when you use Ahmadiyya, there's a level of deception in it. Because the guy, when you say Ahmadiyya, the lay Muslim thinks that they may be referring to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that's the way the Qadianis present it, that we are Ahmadiyya. They link themselves to our religion. So we say that, no, you have a different religion, so you need to have your own identities, which there's no other kafir in the world who takes our identity like how the Qadianis do. Okay, so they say Ahmadiyya, so the lay Muslim thinks, they're referring to our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We know our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's other name was Ahmad. Like that. Another example, when they have their centers, what do they post as the kalima? They write La ilaha illa Muhammadur Rasulullah. So why would a Qadiani center write La ilaha Muhammadur Rasulullah? That's illegal, that's fraud, that's deception. They're not part of this religion. They have a new religion because there's a new prophet. According to them, if they write La ilaha illallah Mirza Rasulullah, as a Muslim, we'll say that's an honest kafir right there. Okay, so they have a prophet, but they're still writing our kalima like that. Another one, they call their center masjid. No, masjid is the name of the center of the Muslims, so they can come up with any name. They can call it Mirza Center, Qadiani Center. We can give them more recommendations, but that's how any other cult or any other religion has a full right to open their centers, open their worship, because Islam believes la ikraha fid din, no force in religion. Truth is clear from error, but you cannot take Muslim identities. Also, now they go further than that. You know what they call themselves? They don't like how we're calling it Qadiani. They call it true Islam. Like me and you, we don't even write true Islam. Me and you just say we're Muslims and Islam. That's it. They go in the world and say they're true Muslim. So playing clear deception on trying to take our religion when they are a whole different religion.
I see. You know, one of the famous ayahs that they use, like you go to universities, they have their booths, and they'll say the ayah ma kana Muhammadun aba ahadin min rijalikum walakin Rasulullah khatam an-nabiyyin. So how do we as Muslims give them an answer back to that? Right?
Yeah. When you're speaking to a missionary or a Qadiani and they come to give you an ayah of Quran, first of all, what the missionary Qadianis do, they do the wrong approach. This approach is clearly wrong. They will come up to a Muslim and they'll give you that verse that you just cited, or is Qarallahu ya Isa inni mutawaffika verse, or many other verses. They like to give you the verses and they want to explain it to you what it means. They cannot do that. A Qadiani cannot explain to a Muslim what a verse means. It's completely wrong. Look, for example, when I want to know the interpretation of religion, myself, Omar, I look for a scholar. And the best, and not just any scholar, a scholar who's ahli haq, who's of the truth. And let's say there's 100 in the world. I select the best ones and he helps me interpret, right? Do I, Qaisar, be honest with me, do I take my interpretation from any Muslim down the street? No. I take it only from ulama and select ulama, yeah?
Yes.
What are the chances that I'm going to allow a kafir to explain a verse of the Quran to me? How does that sound like? It's completely unjust. Wrong approach. So Muslims should not even entertain that. If they want to know the beliefs of the Muslims are clear. You should never allow a Qadiani to come up to you and explain the Quran to you. That's a logical fallacy.
I see.
Logical fallacy. The approach is wrong. You're getting a guy from a different religion. Our lay guys can't interpret. You're getting that guy. Now the right approach is that he needs to use his Quran and Sunnah. Our Quran and Sunnah is our Quran and Hadith. So their Mirza's teachings and the revelations is Ruhani Khazain. So that's
the book.
Oh yeah. So Mirza Ghulam, there are many books of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani written by him or his son. All of them, they're all compiled in a big voluminous compilation called Ruhani Khazain. Okay.
I was reading that, my bad to cut you off, that he died in a bathroom, he passed away in a bathroom. Is that true?
Right.
So he called him a prophet and he died in a bathroom.
Right. And he actually even said there was one illness that he always stayed that he detested a lot. He said that I hope I stay away from that. And that's the same illness that he died in.
And he never.
So as Muslims, we believe is because he became, he did this harm to Islam. He did this. Did these very unjust things, and it was as a punishment.
And he never visited Makkah Mukarramah or Madinah Munawwarah.
One of his predictions was he goes. He never visited. We know that a lay Muslim, every Muslim visits Makkah and Medina for Umrah and Hajj many times. He was not able to even visit one time. He even put, I think, he said, "I'm going to die either in Makkah or Medina." One of his quotes: "I'll either die in Makkah or Medina." Many prophecies. Okay, that's a sign, hallmark of a fake prophet. Makes many prophecies, and they don't come out to be true, like that.
I see. Sorry, you're continuing. You're saying in Ruhani Khazain how they should approach.
Right. Yeah. So if there's sincere Qadianis listening to this podcast, if they wanna understand, so what they have to do is you look at their own writings, and if they want to explain Qadianism to us, do it through your books. And if we want to explain to a missionary Qadiani and assist him with coming to Islam, we have to open up his books. You'll be surprised. Most of them don't read their books. They're taking the wrong approach. They're using our holy book and telling us what it means. We don't need anybody to tell us what Quran and Hadith means. We know since 1400 years what Quran and Hadith means. Qadianism, so if they're sincere, they got to read those books. Many times they don't read it. That's why. And those who revert from Qadianism, if you look at all the interviews, majority of them, what's in the behind the scenes, they never read Mirza's teachings. As soon as somebody exposed the Mirza's teachings, they saw the true picture of Islam. They immediately denied him. So any sincere Qadianis listening on the podcast, just open up Mirza's books. And if you need help opening up his books, you're welcome to visit us, irshad.org, the website, meet with imams who are expert in the field, and they can assist you with it.
So again, I'm coming back to the ayat, my bad. وَلَكِنْ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ خَاتَمَ النَّبِيِّينَ. This is the most common ayat. Even though if they come to us, how do we defend ourselves? Right? That's the most common ayat.
Wait, what are you defending from?
No, I'm saying how do we defend our faith, right? Because a lot of youngsters, get confused, right? And they leave the fold of Islam, right? So
that's because Qadianism is a fitna. Okay, so Muslims, Muslim scholars, when they explain their theology, they must mention Qadianism, and you will have to explain to youngsters as what Qadianism is and what their belief is. Look, you always have to tell the opposites. It's always been the Islamic theology that you always tell its opposites. So when you explain Khatmun Nubuwah, you have to speak about Qadianism. So we like all the imams throughout North America, that when any chance they get, when they're doing hadith classes, when they're doing Quran classes, in their Jummah lecture, any chance you get to explain Qadianism, go ahead for it. Okay? So we can distinguish ourselves like that. So once the young people, their aqeedah, they're strong, then it's fine. Then inshallah they will understand where Qadianism stands, and where they stand. Understand? So we don't want to go the wrong approach. The wrong approach would be that, oh, ma kana Muhammad, how does it interpret? We don't need to do all that. Our aqidah, we don't even need to take it out of the books, because our scholars, our fuqaha, our great theologians have already done it. You read a book like Aqidah Tahawiyah, we take our aqaid through that. So Muslim Islam is very, very clear, and our beliefs are very clear.
Okay, another question people have, that since they call their place a masjid, and can you define what is the meaning of a masjid, right? Because a lot of people get confused, right? They say that Qadiyanis have a masjid and we have a masjid. So what's the difference, right? Like a couple of weeks ago, I was speaking to someone, and they came up to me and they said that, oh, Qadiyanis have a masjid and we have a masjid. So what's the difference? Right. So we need to understand what's the difference. We need to create a boundary here.
Right. Ever since the rise of Qadiyanism, it has become important for Muslims to understand Qadiyanism. Once a Muslim understands his aqidah of Khatm al-Nubuwah, and Qadiyanism has become a part of that now. We have to talk about, when we talk about Khatm al-Nubuwah, Qadiyanism has to come, because it's the anti-finality of prophethood. Understand? So once you have understood Qadiyanism, then these questions don't last anymore.
I see.
Yeah. They must know, because it's our identity. Like, for example, does a Christian call it, what if a Christian called this center a masjid? Would it be offensive to the Muslim world? Right. Yeah. And a Jewish person did that. An atheist started, some meditation center and called it a masjid. It would be a bit strange. No one does that. Everybody keeps it, and nobody even likes to. Look, Qaisar, honestly, doesn't everybody like their own identities?
Yeah, everyone loves
and we
identity.
Respect that.
Yeah.
Even if there's a religion, even if you start a new cult, Qaisar, you can start a new cult.
I'm not going to start a new cult here,
but if somebody does, look, and if he keeps his identity, we respect that, because there's no force in religion. Start all the cults, do what you need, because you have freedom in this world to choose your path. You have the logic, you have the prophets who have come. Truth is there.
Plus, in the West, you have freedom of speech and freedom of religion too.
But nowhere does any religion or any civilization allow deception or stealing other people's identity and calling yourself a true Muslim and the people of that religion taking them all out.
Yeah.
Nobody does that. We don't even have an example similar to Qadiyanism. Okay, and I have a nice quote here. It's found on our website, irshad.org. There's a center called Khatm al-Nubuwwah Center from London. It's run by a man named Molana Salim Durat. And there's an article. This article is called "What is Qadiyanism?" And at the end of that, they say, Qadiyanism is nothing but conspiracy against Islam. The Qadiyanism is not, it's far from being a religion. It's not even doing a good job being a cult. It's not doing a good job being a cult, because you have to have your own identities. It's nothing but conspiracy against Islam, kufr in the guise of religion, and hypocrisy in the name of Islam. Like that. That's all it stands. It has no academic grounds. It has no reality. It has no substance. It survives and just harming us. So our message today to the Qadianis is that you don't need to be part of this cycle. And sometimes when I talk to some of their big missionaries, the big gurus, their big leaders, the advocates, they're not Hafiz al-Quran or alims. You know what's behind the scenes of why they're promoting Qadianism heavily? You know what's behind? You'll be shocked. Because somebody hurt them. And then the background is, somebody oppressed my uncle back in Pakistan. I was oppressed, understand, or whatever other country they were oppressed. So we say to them, by the way, we're against that. Any violence towards Qadianis, Ahmadi, we're completely against that. If this happened, we condemn that act. So you don't have to be against Islam for the rest of your life because someone harmed you. Muslims, it's not part of our religion to harm you. So if that has happened, it has happened, right? It's oppression. Oppression happens in the world. It doesn't mean that you need to start Qadianism and spend the rest of your life just being part of attacking Islam, putting Islam down, and you yourself have no religion. Your religion is just to harm us.
Okay, so now we understood that. But how do we invite a Qadiani person to Islam, right? What steps can he take? And what steps can we take as inviting him to?
As I mentioned earlier, you have to invite them that since there's a new prophet that you guys have brought into the picture, we have to look at his writings. Okay, you have to understand the person of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani from his original books, Ruhani Khazain. That's the approach you take. Once you take that approach, by the way, when you speak into a missionary and you want to speak on this topic, they don't stay. They leave. They leave. That's their, because we want to see their Quran and Hadith. If you have a religion, bring your Quran and Hadith. Mirza's writings and teachings are your Quran and Hadith. Don't use ours, please. And we don't need your help interpreting it. We know it very well what the ayats mean. Our tafsir is well preserved.
I see.
So that's a completely, absolutely wrong approach. Muslims should stop doing it. It's quite dangerous to allowing a Qadiani to sit in front of you and give verses, and he's going to explain them to you, what he thinks it means. We don't need any Qadiani to explain verses what it means. The whole Muslim world is 100% sure, since 1400 years, what every verse means and what every hadith means.
You're right.
I would like to highlight a little bit about the category of, if we have a few minutes.
Yeah, we have a few minutes.
About Zindiq, Kafir, if I may.
Sure, yeah.
Right. So, these Qadiani, they're known as Zindiq Kafir. Zindiq Kafir is someone who expresses that he's a Muslim, but really he's a Kafir. Okay? So they get classified as a Zindiq Kafir. Now how that's different, look, an atheist, a Christian, a Jewish, any other religion, they're Kafir. Okay? Kafir is not a bad word. It just means you're not a Muslim. And that's your choice, because Islam believes in freedom of religion. And Islam respects them, honors them. We can even do business ventures with them. So you can have a Christian, a friend of yours, and you can go on a business venture with him and invite him to your house, have relationships to an extent with them. But a Qadiani is known as Zindiq Kafir, and the laws are different with them. Since they are taking our identities with the Zindiq Kafir, we have a whole different Islamic law to it. So I want to share one of the laws with you. One of the laws is that we don't do interactions with them.
What is Zindiq Kafir, first of all? Can you explain to that?
Any disbeliever who takes our identities, disbeliever, but he takes identities and acts like he's a Muslim, although he's a disbeliever.
Oh, okay.
You become Zindiq Kafir. There could be many, and Qadianism is also one. So with this type of a Kafir, Muslims cannot interact. So let me explain a bit here. You can do business venture with them. You can invite them to your homes to eat. Understand? You can't have those types of relationships on a normal basis. You cannot do that. The way you can with a Christian, with an atheist. The reason is because Christian is calling himself a Christian. Atheist is calling himself a Christian. This person is saying he's a Muslim and you're not. You know, in the eyes of Qadianism, me and you are not Muslims. So he's kind of like usurping. He's trying to usurp our identity and usurp our whole religion. So it's part of our dignity that we don't have those interactions. We totally boycott them. However, there's an exception. If you feel there's a Qadiani, and if you feel that if you interact with them, you can invite them to Islam. Like you're a knowledgeable person, you may be an Islamic scholar, maybe a student of knowledge, you're well grounded, you have understood Qadianism, and there's a Qadiani, if you become his friend, you will invite them to Islam and put in, his chances will go up that he'll understand Islam. Then you may interact with them so that benefit can come out.
Jazakallah khair. Mullah, our time is up. Thank you for your time. If you want to get in contact with Molana, you can go on their website. And if you want to get in contact with their center, even on the website, everything you guys can find on the website. This is your host signing off, Ali Kaisar. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.